Those who know the right questions must reach those asking the wrong ones, and sometimes even the lost. I protect my identity because truth has a body count. Welcome to the Anarchist File. Welcome to the economy, kid. Population, you, your declining bank account, and 300 million people pretending not to notice the house is on fire as long as DoorDash still delivers. You've probably noticed things are expensive. Like, I swear this used to be $2.99. Expensive. Gas? Up. Rent? Up. Groceries? Through the roof. And if you're under 25, congratulations. Your dollars are worth less than they've ever been, and the people who caused it want you to blame Walmart. You hear it all the time. Greedy corporations, greedy landlords, greedy oil companies, greedy everybody but the people printing the money. You know, the folks who literally manufacture currency out of thin air and dump it into the system like frat brothers shotgunning beers at a dying party? That's who's inflating your cost of living. Not some evil guy with a monocle jacking up the price of peanut butter just to spite you. But they won't tell you that. Because if they did, you'd realize inflation isn't a glitch. It's the design, the feature, the tool they use to siphon wealth from you to them while pretending to help the economy. So let's break it down. Not like your econ textbook. Those are written by tenured goblins who never sold a thing in their lives. I'm going to walk you through inflation like you're rich. Fed up older brother who saw this game years ago, got out, and now watches from the balcony with a cigar and 3 passports. This is going to hurt. But not as much as your grocery bill in 6 months if you don't wake up. So let's talk inflation. Not the safe, sterilized kind you hear about on cable news. The real kind. The kind they don't teach. Because if they did, you might stop playing the role of economic piñata and start asking real questions. And they do not want that. First things first, inflation is not prices going up. That's the symptom. That's the rash. That's what you notice when you're standing in line at CVS, wondering why deodorant now costs more than a Chipotle bowl. But the disease, the cause, it's always the same. They printed more money. Full stop. Inflation is the increase in the money supply relative to the goods and services available. That's it. That's the beast behind the curtain. Every other explanation is just fog, designed to keep you confused, pacified, and blaming the wrong people. Now here's what they won't tell you. They do it on purpose. Why? Because it makes them rich and makes you easier to control. When they expand the money supply, the new dollars don't hit your pocket, they hit theirs. The banks, the insiders, the state-approved elites. They get first dibs at the old prices while the rest of us chase scraps in a marketplace that has already moved on without us. It's called the Cantillon effect. Look it up actually, and I'll explain it in real English. Imagine you're in a stadium. You're buying popcorn? So only the concession guy gets $10,000 printed out of thin air and uses it to buy up all the snacks. By the time you get to the counter, prices are triple. And now your $20 buys you half a Coke and the paper straw it wrote in on? That's inflation. But instead of a stadium, it's your country. Instead of popcorn, it's rent, cars, food, fuel, tuition, and everything else you need to function. And instead of some dude at the snack stand, it's the federal government, the central banks. And every crony they do backroom deals with, and it happens constantly. They print, they borrow, they inflate, and you pay. They call it quantitative easing, a phrase so sanitized it sounds like a therapy technique. It's not. It's legalized counterfeiting. But because they wear suits and call it monetary policy, you're supposed to smile and thank them for saving the economy. They didn't save anything. They diluted it. And the beauty of it, if you read one of them, is that nobody blames you. Prices go up. They blame the grocery store. They blame the truck drivers. They blame war, weather, wheat, whales, anything but the money printer. You want to know how dumb it gets? Some people actually think inflation is caused by greed, as if every CEO in America woke up on the same Tuesday morning and said, "Hey guys, let's all raise prices together." No memo, no coordination, just spontaneous, synchronized greed. No, they raised prices because the currency got weaker, because your dollar doesn't stretch the way it did 2 years ago, because supply stayed the same. But the number of dollars chasing it exploded like a hormone-charged teenager seeing a bra strap. It's not a mystery, it's math. You double the money supply and you devalue the currency. It's like watering down whiskey. It's like watering gone whiskey. Sure, but now everyone is just getting drunk off lies and hoping they, Don T, taste the difference. And most people don't. Because most people are financially illiterate by design. This system doesn't want you asking why. It wants you grateful for the crumbs. It wants you clapping for stimulus checks, while ignoring the fact that every check you cashed came with a secret tax baked in, the destruction of your purchasing power. So yeah, you're paying for it, not an income tax. In inflation, the silent thief, the invisible vampire, the wealth extraction device that makes you poorer every single year, while politicians get to pretend they your saviors. But trust me, they know what they're doing. They're not stupid, they're just evil. Let me guess. You still think inflation hits everyone equally? Cute that's what they want you to believe, that we all in this together, rowing the same boat while storm clouds rage. Spoiler, you're bailing water. There in the captain's quarters drinking 100-year-old scotch and shorting your future. See? Inflation isn't a malfunction. It's a funnel, one that flows upward. Every new dollar printed enters the system at the top. It hits banks first, then corporations, then asset holders. Only after that does it trickle down to you, where it arrives bloated, weak, and late, like your Uber driver who stopped 4 tacos on the way and ate your fries. The elite don't just survive inflation, they feast on it. Because they don't hold cash, they hold assets. Real ones. Land, equity, commodities, gold, stuff that doesn't care how many dollars exist. Because its relative value stays the same, or even increases. Inflation isn't a tax to them, it's a flash sale. While you're crying about egg prices, they're out here buying apartment blocks at a discount with your devalued labor, and when the bubble bursts, when your paycheck can't keep up with the cost of breathing, they offer you loans. They love when you suffer. It makes you desperate, and desperate people make great debtors. They'll finance your car, your house, your college degree, your new fridge, and your wedding ring, all at low interest rates that mysteriously jump 6 months later when you re-locked in and out of options, and when you default, they take it all back. You don't get to own, you get to rent. From them, and they get richer. Every year, every cycle. Because they play this game with your blood, your time, your wage, slave hustle, and they don't even pretend to care anymore. In fact, they laugh. They write books on how inflation can be good for the economy. Good for who? Exactly. Not for the 19-year-old working 2 jobs and skipping meals. Not for the single mom whose rent just went up $400 because Wall Street bought every house on her block and called it progress. Good for the asset class. Good for the BlackRocks, the Vanguards, the real ruling class. The ones who own the machine and feed it your paycheck like it's coal and an engine built to make their 5th yacht tax deductible. And don't expect your elected officials to do anything about it. They're in on it, always have been. Politicians don't fight inflation, they manufacture it, slap a bow on it, and call it a stimulus. Remember those checks? The free money? That was bait. That was the bribe. They handed you $1,200, and you cheered while they handed trillions to corporations, banks, and foreign governments. You got breadcrumbs? They got the bakery. You got a couple months of Uber Eats? An upgraded Wi-Fi? They got a permanent equity stake in the economy, bought with the dollars they printed from thin air? And now you get to pay it back in higher prices, weaker savings, and a standard of living that shrinks with every headline that says, "Experts surprised by inflation unexpectedly rising again." It's not unexpected. It's intentional. It's structural. It's theft with a keyboard in a press conference. And the final insult? They'll tell you it's your fault, that you're spending too much, that you should stop buying lattes or cancel Netflix. As if cutting out $3 coffee will magically reverse $9 trillion in monetary expansion. It won't. You didn't break the economy. You're just the one forced to pay for it. Let me ask you something. If inflation's so easy to understand, print more money, get less value per dollar, then why does it feel like every explanation you've ever heard sounds like it was written by a drunk accountant with a concussion? Simple. Because it's meant to confuse you. The media? Bought. The experts? Paid. The universities? Owned. Every single channel of information you've been force-fed since you were old enough to say macroeconomics has been tailored to ensure you never actually learn how money works. Because if you did, you'd riot. You'd stop playing the game. You'd stop trusting the currency. You'd start demanding answers they're not prepared to give. And certainly not to someone with a TikTok account and a $38 check-in balance. So instead, they teach you financial Stockholm syndrome. Inflation is a natural part of a growing economy. They say like it's a law of physics. As if every society must inevitably suffer because of demand pressures or consumer confidence metrics. No, it's not natural. It's policy. It's planned. It's engineered theft with a smile and a podium. And when prices spike, they send out the talking heads. They wheel out some bouted dweeb with 3 Ivy League degrees and a net worth lower than your gaming laptop. And he tells you with absolute confidence that inflation is complicated, that you wouldn't understand, that it's actually caused by labor shortages, climate change, corporate profiteering, or some other convenient scapegoat. Never not once do they blame the one institution with a literal money printer in the basement. Because they can't. Because the entire house of cards falls apart if the average person realizes the magician's trick. If you stop believing in the dollar stops working. It's not backed by gold. It's backed by your ignorance. And they've invested heavily in keeping that ignorance alive. Why do you think financial literacy isn't taught in school? You learned how to label mitochondria and write 5-paragraph essays about books you didn't read. But no one explained compound interest, or inflation, or taxes, or how debt really works. You graduated and able to calculate slope and intercept form, but completely unequipped to navigate a real economy. That wasn't an accident. That was the program. Because they don't need you smart. They need you docile. They need you dependent. They need you checking credit scores and arguing on Reddit while they evaporate the purchasing power of your blood, sweat, and ambition. Meanwhile, you argue with your uncle about late-stage capitalism and think you're being revolutionary. Bro, you repeating memes fed to you by tenured Marxists who still haven't figured out that every revolution ends with more government and less bread. And the ultimate irony, the same institutions responsible for inflation, the Fed, the Treasury, the government itself, are now acting like they're here to save you from it. Hiking interest rates like it's an exorcism. Tightening the money supply after blowing it out like a fat kid on birthday candles. They create the disease, then sell you the cure, and the masses buy it, every time. Because the lie is easier than admitting you've been conned. Because facing the truth means taking responsibility, and responsibility is heavy. It means learning how money works, how markets work, how the system really operates, and how to step outside it. But you won't get that from CNN, or CNBC, or your econ professor with a ponytail and a Prius. You will only get that by unplugging from the narrative machine and facing the uncomfortable fact that you were raised to be a useful idiot. Trained to be a consumer, not a creator. A taxpayer, not a sovereign. A unit, not a threat. And every dollar you save, every asset you hold in fiat, every hour you trade for paper, it keeps the lie alive. Here's the part no one wants to say out loud. Inflation isn't just about wealth extraction, it's about control. Because when your dollars are bleeding value by the hour, you don't save, you don't plan, you don't build, you scramble, you stay moving, you stay tired. You stay plugged into the system, trying to outrun the erosion while the ground disappears beneath your feet. Inflation keeps you desperate, and desperation is compliance. You stop asking, is this fair? And start asking, can I survive this week? And that's exactly where they want you. Eyes down, mind on bills. No time to look up and realize the chains aren't metaphorical anymore. This is how they shape your behavior. You don't hold cash? You're forced into risky speculation just to stay afloat. You don't trust banks? They'll shut down your options until you do. You don't like your job? Tough. That paycheck isn't just income now, it's a lifeline in a rigged casino. And the most dystopian part, they built a culture to justify it. They tell you, saving is outdated, but you're supposed to spend, borrow, consume. That if you're not buying a new iPhone every year, you're somehow falling behind. Behind what, exactly? The rest of the herd headed off the same cliff? You are being trained to live paycheck to paycheck. Not because you're irresponsible, but because the currency you're paid in is designed to rot, deliberately, quietly, in the background. Like software updates you never asked for but can't stop. And every time you try to get ahead, they move the goalpost. Raise your wages, prices go up, pay off your debt, new fees, save a little cash. Interest gets nuked, inflation goes nuclear, and your savings lose value faster than your Tinder matches disappear after seeing your apartment. It's not bad luck, it's design. You are not supposed to escape. You're supposed to stay on the hamster wheel, to believe you're almost there. That one more promotion, one more raise, one more hustle will buy your freedom. It won't. You don't work your way out of a burning house. You leave. So how do you leave? Not physically. That's amateur hour. You don't need a cabin in Montana and a ham radio. You need sovereignty. Financial, mental, digital. You need to opt out of the rot. Not with slogans or hashtags, but with action. You stop saving in fiat, you start moving into hard assets. Things they can't print. Land, gold, Bitcoin. Skills, ownership, leverage. You stop worshiping the paycheck and start building cashful assets that work while you sleep. Not jobs that drain you while you decay. And you stop pretending this system can be fixed. It can't. It's not broken. It's working exactly as intended. You don't negotiate with parasites. You remove them. You don't vote harder. You build smarter. Because the real flex into, not a Lambo. It's not being afraid. It's not needing their currency. It's not depending on their rules. It's not living your life around a system that would kill you and call it policy. You are being trained to live paycheck to paycheck. Not because you're irresponsible, but because the currency you're paid in is designed to rot, deliberately, quietly, in the background. Like software updates you never asked for but can't stop. And every time you try to get ahead, they move the goalpost. Raise your wages, prices go up, pay off your debt, new fees, save a little cash. Interest gets nuked, inflation goes nuclear, and your savings lose value faster than your Tinder matches disappear after seeing your apartment. It's not bad luck, it's design. You are not supposed to escape. You're supposed to stay on the hamster wheel, to believe you're almost there. That one more promotion, one more raise, one more hustle will buy your freedom. It won't. You don't work your way out of a burning house. You leave. So how do you leave? Not physically. That's amateur hour. You don't need a cabin in Montana and a ham radio. You need sovereignty. Financial, mental, digital. You need to opt out of the rot. Not with slogans or hashtags, but with action. You stop saving in fiat, you start moving into hard assets, things they can't print. Land, gold, Bitcoin. Skills, ownership, leverage. You stop worshiping the paycheck and start building cashflow assets that work while you sleep, not jobs that drain you while you decay. And you stop pretending this system can be fixed. It can't. It's not broken. It's working exactly as intended. You don't negotiate with parasites. You remove them. You don't vote harder. You build smarter. Because the real flex into not a Lambo. It's not being afraid. It's not needing their currency. It's not depending on their rules. It's not living your life around a system that would kill you and call it policy. Understand this. Inflation is the software. You are the hardware. The only way out is to install a new operating system. And that starts the moment you stop treating this as normal. 'Cause it's not. It's abuse, wrapped in democracy, sold as economic stimulus. It's just another leash in the hands of people who think they own you. So now you know. You've spent your entire life living in a lie they engineered, a system that punishes savers, enslaves earners, and rewards leeches with access to the printer. And now that you've seen it, you don't get to unsee it. That's the price of clarity. You were told inflation was just the way things work. A little bump? A minor nuisance. A natural part of economic growth. Lie. It's theft. It's control. It's the economic version of boiling a frog. And guess what? You're the frog, and the water's already steaming. So what now? You go back to pretending? Back to debating politics with people who think tax brackets matter, while their real wealth leaks out the back door? Back to clutching your paycheck like an SA life raft while the Fed slashes holes in the hull? Or do you wake up, because if you've made it this far, you're not like them. You're not supposed to be a cog. You're not built to worship crumbs and hope for coupons. You're built to own, to play offense, to understand the system and opt out with fire in your eyes and leverage in your pocket. Start with this. Stop thinking like a peasant. Peasants saving cash. Sovereigns saving assets. Peasants wait for permission. Sovereigns build systems. Peasants fear inflation. Sovereigns use it. You don't need Wall Street. You don't need government sugar daddies. You need to study capital. Own capital. And never let your labor be the only thing you have to offer. Inflation is just the beginning. The red carpet to a larger scam, the eternal scam, where power launders theft through policy and labels it good for the economy. It's not good for you. You know that now. So burn the fiat gospel in your mind. Learn what real value is. Stack what can't be printed. And understand this above all else. Every second you spend believing in the system is a second the system spends robbing you. Opt out or stay broke. Your call. The story isn't over. This was the Anarchist File.